Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. You're here with host Lavonne. Happy Friday. It's August 5th, 2016. I hope you had an awesome week. I did. Lots of topics on the show tonight. We're going to talk about so many things. I don't have a live guest tonight, but it's all right. We've got so many things to speak about regarding health, the news, vaping, how you can be more awesome. We're going to go over news at antimedia.org, and we're going to, at the end there, segue into our guest next week, which is a lady who's been working really hard in hopes of passing and gaining support for Senate Bill 2058, and we'll get into that. But on Fridays, along with all of our awesome topics, which I'll list off here in a moment, we like to balance the week's news, which is, let's be real, often depressing and conquering, if sorts. And we just want to give you guys some information that's going to inspire you and offer you solutions so that you don't feel so overwhelmed by all the negativity that we sometimes portray, because that's what's going on. So in light of that, let's see what's going on the antimedia.org. We'll read a few headlines here. Pardon my internet. It's not the 5G is not doing it for me. Okay, so while we wait for that to load, I want to talk about our topics tonight. We're going to talk about healing our government. What does tyranny mean? What it means to be in life school. Vaping, we went over that. Nicotine, balance. Vaping saved my life, which is a popular hashtag online right now. Sorry about that, guys. Wouldn't be a classic Friday without a little technical error with it. Um, Hopefully, I'm back live now. Let me get some confirmation for that. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, so let me get back to reading you guys tonight's topics, and then we're going to talk about. Just going to go down the list here. Something close to my heart is agorism, healing, government, tyranny, life school, news, vaping, nicotine, balance, HR 2058, vaping saved my life, big tobacco, big business, people over profits, profits over people, master service agreement, something I learned about today, which definitely deserves more attention, and I'll be getting into that this week and talking about it more next week as it ties into our guest and our topic then. Where am I? Parasites, bees, unresolved emotions, something that we talk about a lot on this show because, believe it or not, you're not just a bag of bones and muscle. How weird. Chi, body energy, tension, and manifesting. And I want to make sure that I give credit to Foreign Sons, as well as Ponder and Excel, the lovely people who provide the music on my show. I'm very grateful for you. Also, organicolivia.com. This girl is the business. She's pretty much like my doppelganger. If I had a clone, I'm hoping it would be her, and she's just doing all the work I wish I had time to do. Check out her blog. She has so many articles and lovely information that she perpetuates. So much that I'm going to try and read something to you guys until she just stops doing it. Like, you need to know everything that she knows. Well, like, so far, 99% of the content. We're getting there. It's really good. So, why I always have a horrible internet connection is part of tonight's first topic, which is agorism. The definition is defined by basically a group of people working independently but codependently, basically without a government, and a societal structure built on relationships and voluntary exchanges. It's by means of counter economics. So it's an idea that's built towards a peaceful revolution. And this is something that I've literally applied to every aspect of my life over the last, what year is it? 6 years. It's taken me to go, yeah, I'm done with this. But you can't just quit your job and sell everything you own and move into a tiny home with solar panel right away. That takes time. Or build a seed bank. And these are all things that I've done. I've learned how to grow food. I've learned how to sow, to preserve, to hunt, to gather. And, I'm working on skills just because I feel like I want to be sovereign, independently functioning, regenerative, that's that word I can't say, you know what I mean. I want to have a purpose. I don't just want to consume and die. Like all that bullshit we're constantly fed. I can't do it. So I encourage you to think outside the box. Especially here in America, we're sold this dream, right? You grow up and you don't do drugs because they're so bad. You go to college and you get a job and you buy a house and you make the babies and you do all those things. You get debt, you pay off your debt, you die. You're so happy. That's great, but that's not for everybody. And I encourage you to not get caught in the trap of that thing, because I think there's more to life than doing that. I feel like young people are pressured so intensely into doing that, becoming the thing they're supposed to become. And quite frankly, physiologically and biologically, we're not even developed as people until we're like 24. Our brain's not done. I just think it's so unfair that we have all that pressure on us from such a young age. They have us thinking about college when we're in grade school. Why do you think people have anxiety? We're going to get into that, but it's true. So, don't get caught up in that thing is what I'm trying to say. Agorism is an idea that's pretty awesome, and I encourage you to do some research on it. Check it out. And we do have articles loaded now. Woo, go internet. There's a lot of headlines right now on the antimedia.org. I'm going to read to you something that I think is really relative here. A former CIA director just endorsed Hillary. What you're not being told. That sounds very interesting. So there's a lot of controversy surrounding this Hillary, and I know a lot of us talk about it over the week, so I'm not going to get really into it. I just want to bring your attention to this article because I think it's very important. So, Alice, thank you for writing this. Michael J. Morrell, the former director and deputy director of the Central Intelligence Agency between 2010 and 2013, is close to Hillary Clinton. But you wouldn't know just that by asking. Once he left the CIA, Morrell became senior counselor for Beacon Global Strategies, a consulting firm founded by Philip Raines, a longtime ally of Clinton. In a recent op-ed for the New York Times, Moore details why he is supporting the Democrat in November. As observed by Gawker, the 33-year-old CIA veteran goes to great lengths in his op-ed to paint his position as nonpartisan, but he fails to mention that he, indeed, has a close ties to his candidate. I've served presidents of both parties, Morrell writes. I was at President George W. Bush's side when we were attacked on September 11th, and as deputy director of the agency, I was with President Obama when we killed Osama bin Laden in 2011. I am neither a registered Democrat nor a registered Republican. In my 40 years of voting, I have pulled the lever for candidates of both parties. As a governor official, I've always been silent about my preference for president. But Morrell's boss at Beacon Global Strategies, Philip Raines, is often described as the puppet master when it comes to Clinton and her campaign. Recently, this puppet master was mentioned in the documentary Weiner, a film that chronicles former Congressman Anthony Weiner, 2013 campaign for New York City mayor. His wife has been a Clinton aide since '96 and now serves as vice chair of her election campaign. During the film, Biden is taking orders. Oh, where are you going? Text, sorry. It's running away on me. Where did you go? Is taking orders from Raines in multiple occasions, according to the Daily Beast, which is summarized in the documentary. When the wheels begin to fall off his moral campaign in the wake of yet another sexting scandal, he is captured through a series of surreptitious phone calls taking orders from Hillary Clinton's right-hand man and ex-deputy assistant. So that's pretty interesting. So he has lots of links that are suspicious, and I'm not going to give it away, but you guys should go check it out. So we have 3 articles I want to read from Organic Olivia here. The first that I think is super important and relevant to a lot of our health collectively, and the topic of this article is, yes, you have parasites. And they are what's killing the bees. And you may think, how are those two things connected? But we're going to find out. So common symptoms of parasites in humans are constipation, gas or bloating, diarrhea, pains or aches in the back, joints or muscles, irritable bowel syndrome, allergies, increased appetite, itchy ears, nose or anus, nervousness or grumpiness, chronic fatigue, lethargy or apathy, various skin problems, tooth grinding or clenching, edema, excessive weight, forgetfulness, vision problems, or problem sleeping. You may think that's vague, but let's find out. So Olivia says she took a class about emotional disgust, and she wrote a paper about parasites, and she talked about the two things that protect us from parasites and pathogens: our immune systems and our behavioral immune systems. Studies show that people who feel they are not vulnerable to infectious disease and parasites, like those of us in first world countries, have a low behavioral immune system. They report less frequent hand washing and washing of fruits and vegetables than those who are aware of pathogenic threat. There's a reference here. Found that self-grooming habits, which can include reference cleaning, are activated by the visual presence of parasites and verbal information about the health risks caused by parasites. So, I wrote my paper on this, she says. The emotional disgust is essential to human survival in the United States. Sorry, I'm getting thirsty. Sorry, not sorry. We are not educated about parasites, she says. My doctor told me after months of IBS, and how many of you have that? Raise his hand. Stool test and even colonoscopies. Yes, parasites migrate to other areas during those. That I had no parasites. Yet, when I did an herbal cleanse, I had hundreds. She has some pictures here that look like a lot of us, where a lot of people have back knee, and she shows how it gradually dissipates via a cleanse and a fast. And there's like these photos of these really long, disgusting ropeworms. Ugh, so gross. Kind of looks like pad thai, which is like my dinner tonight. Ugh. Sorry, that's me getting all visual. We can't help it. That's disgusting. Okay, because of a lack of education, our disgust mechanism, see, it worked, isn't activated, and our self-grooming anti-parasites habits are at a minimum. Every indigenous culture has some form of botanical they use for parasite cleansing. But why would we if we were never taught we had a reason to? Aha! Another thing I brought up was luxury. Many of us, including me before I got sick, she says, have the luxury of modern medicine, and therefore do not need to learn to take care of ourselves via herbs and diet. We are letting our immune systems crash. We don't care to eat vegetables as the bulk of every meal because we don't understand the pathogenic disgust threat we're facing by weakening our immune systems through poor diet. We think that at most we'll gain weight or worse, develop a reversible condition like diabetes, obesity, or even heart disease. But we don't think of the other side. The bugs and worms we're letting into our system by throwing out our first defense, which is immunity through diet, and relying on the second, which is the medical system that focuses on sickness instead of health. We are not taught that as soon as we eat refined sugar, the yeast, bacteria, and worms in our intestines feast and gain the strength to burrow deeper into our tissues because our immune system is immediately depressed. If it was a pathogenic threat like parasites that elicited a disgust response instead of culturally acceptable threats, many of us would think twice before grabbing the fries and soda. Now, where did these more recently prevalent illnesses come from, like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, MS, ALS, autism, Alzheimer's, etc.? That don't have a cause, yet all have similar symptoms on a different scale. What about all the food allergies, eczema, rashes, depression, mental fog, IBS, Crohn's, and cysts? Take a look at the symptoms of parasites. We are facing a pathogenic threat, but the parasitic fungal bacteria infections and symptoms that once come with them vary just enough from person to person to be lumped under vague diagnoses that could cost you a lot more than body cleansing would. Chronic Lyme disease, for example, is constantly misdiagnosed as MS. ALS and fibromyalgia. And she has a link for a documentary that you guys can check out. And again, I'm on organicolivia.com. And the title is, Yes, You Have Parasites, and They're What's Killing the Bees. So, how do these bugs get in? First of all, we are all bathing in immune-depressing chemicals. Our water is chlorinated and fluoridated. Benzene at gas pumps, phthalates, formaldehyde, and so much more at nail salons. All the chemicals involved in getting your carpet, couch cleaned, let alone the flame retardants your couch is already soaked in, parabens and sulfates in your home and body cleaning products, immune-damaging heavy metals, and different things, she calls them adjuvants, in vaccines that counteract their purposes, carcinogens and pesticides, petrochemicals, and xenoestrogens in plastic. And did you know that glyphosate, the toxic pesticide created by Monsanto, is now found in the rain, breast milk, and urine samples? Not to worry, nothing to see here. Just buy shit. You need it. I'm just kidding. All of these things, just kidding. All of these things kill our first and best defense against parasites, like our immune system, because it's so important. That's why we keep repeating that word. Then, once the parasites are comfortable and grow into large adult stages, simple diet changes may not be enough. Once you already have that autoimmune disorder or diagnosis, the parasites candida may be too large or too prevalent to be handled by your immune system or with diet alone. Although it is possible, it takes time, work, and willpower to fast, liver cleanse, and parasite cleanse. Many people aren't willing to do that or don't believe that they have to because Western medicine didn't say so. But if your illness is thoroughly developed, it's hard to move forward without getting the physical blockages and parasites out first. We cut things out through surgeries because it's easier, faster, and less difficult mentally and physically than getting our bodies clean enough to digest and sweep out the garbage from the inside out. She says she's had some people say to her, geez, it seems like everything causes cancer nowadays. That is a scary truth. All of our cheap, modern conveniences have consequences and were designed to keep us sick. Why do you think the government allowed GMOs into your food and hired the former VP of Monsanto as the head of the FDA? I'm sorry, FDA. Called it the FDA. Money. You eat the food and use the toxic products. Your immune system suffers. You get a chronic illness and you're a pharmaceutical customer for life. The big corporations who create all these poisonous products and chemical-laden goods are doing it for a reason. It's expensive to make things with natural biodegradable materials that would protect our health and earth. It's cheap to take industrial petrochemicals and slap a pretty label on it with no concern for human consequences. So many of the chemicals used in things as simple as air fresheners are known carcinogens. Yet, these companies don't take care as long as you keep buying them because they're cheap. Then once our lifetime of chemical exposure results in a cancer diagnosis, the doctor gets to say that they don't know what caused it or it's genetic. So yes, everything does cause cancer nowadays. But don't worry, everything, meaning our food, products, and polluted environment, cause all of the other conditions we're facing. We all know that there's a clear thread of these exploding chronic illnesses but we do not look at what's been there since before the dinosaurs, ready to decompose anything and everything that is sick and dying, the bugs and parasites. I will stand by this until I'm gone, she says. You're so cute, Olivia. Parasites are a major root of all sickness. It's a law of nature. When an organism begins to decline, nature's cleanup crew begins to do its job to put that organism back into the earth as part of the cycle of life. So whenever there is a disease, parasites will be at play. As soon as your immune system's guard is down, the parasites that are all around you will take advantage. And if your immune system is strong, if you eat right, if you have fast-moving bowels that remove parasite eggs before they have a chance to hatch, and if you clean your body out periodically, the parasites around you won't be a problem. So she goes on to say, pardon my 5G internet, what the shit. It's part of my weekly stress. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm not. Seriously. 5G every week. My show goes down. Hundreds of articles pinpointed pesticides as the culprit. And just like in us humans, that's how it all starts. But it's only half the story. And a first of its kind study published in the journal PLOS1, scientists at the University of Maryland have identified a brew of pesticides and fungicides contaminating pollen that bees collect to feed their hives. When researchers collected pollen from hives on the East Coast pollinating cranberry, watermelon, and other crops and fed it to healthy bees, those bees showed a significant decline in their ability to resist infection by a parasite called Nosema ceranae. The bees exposed to chemical like pesticides had a decline in their immune systems and now cannot fight parasites. This is the same immune depression and inability to resist parasites that we are experiencing because of pesticides and similar chemicals in our food. In the study, the parasite had been implicated in colony collapse disorder. Most disturbing, bees that ate pollen contaminated with fungicides were 3 times as likely to be infected by the parasite. Now think about how humans who eat food contaminated with GMOs, pesticides, fungicides, and heavy metals, and who use products contaminated with all the same chemicals I mentioned earlier, are equally as likely to be infected by parasites. It's all about your immune system, and it's all about the invaders when that immune system is damaged. What's happening to the bees is happening to us. It's true. So she goes on to say that everyone should clean out their body. I agree. It's a healthy practice to have, and we've talked about that a lot on the show. And sorry about the the alarming nature of that information, but it's a good perspective. Thank you for writing that, Miss Olivia. Her next topic that I really enjoy revolves around your emotions, and I hope I didn't cause too much stress or anxiety with the previous reading there. But to go along with her title here, that emotional pain suppresses energy flow within the body, I can definitely attest to that. Just from working in a healing center and watching thousands of people manage their pain over a course of years in different conditions. A lot of the conditions that she mentioned in the other article, they were suffering from those things. And we talked to them about the importance of diet, lifestyle change, stress management, structural function, all the above, but a lot of times emotions are overlooked and they're so important. They're so important. Unresolved emotional pain creates a constant suppression of energy flow within the body. This built up energy and tension often results in mental disorder, manifesting itself as anxiety. We then attribute our suffering to anxiety rather than attributing our anxiety to unresolved emotional pain. So that's a quote from somebody called Empath Rising. Go you. Okay. So often, when our physical health begins to trouble us, anxiety and various other forms of mental turmoil tend to come along with it. Why? Because a significant root cause of both is always the same: the stagnation and suppression that comes from holding our emotions and suffering in silence. As many of you know, before I was able to heal and began to master my own body, I was diagnosed with various physical ailments: IBS, cystic acne, inflamed liver, etc. As these illnesses got worse and worse, I noticed that my mental health would also deteriorate in a mirror-like fashion to what my body was going through. The intensity of the anxiety and depression I felt ebbed and flowed in the same waves as my physical suffering. Although my intuition saw the connection between the two, I brushed it off. I thought I was just unlucky, cursed maybe. I convinced myself that my poor health and mental illness ran into my family. So this was my genetic destiny. Years later, I now understand that the mind and body cannot be separated. I realized that a major root cause for both my bodily conditions and mental afflictions was exactly the same: unresolved emotional conflict. I wasn't cursed, and sickness did not just run in the family. However, abuse, trauma, and a desperate cry for love certainly did, generation after generation. At the peak of my sickness, right before I woke up and went the natural route, the health of my liver was dwindling fast. No one could figure out why my enzymes were so high and why it was so inflamed. At the same time, my anxiety was out of control. I attributed the suffering I experienced purely to these physical and mental ailments, thinking they were out of my control, rather than looking at the very real emotional cause that could be contributing to their manifestation in the first place. In traditional Chinese medicine, every organ is tied to an emotion. The fact that my liver was inflamed provided a clear indication of the type of emotional pain I needed to resolve. The liver is the seat of anger and will build up major tension, heat, stagnation if you're holding on to resentment, especially in the self-resentment that is ingrained into you from abuse or dysfunctional relationships. Over time, that anger can do, I'm sorry, over time, that anger can no longer be contained. The liver yang, or the heat, rises and transmits right up into the heart, causing heart fire, also known as anxiety. You can look for this phenomenon in your own body by checking your tongue. If the tip of your tongue is red, heart fire is present. I can always tell if someone has anxiety by checking their tongue, she said. I've had a lot of nutritionists do this to me, and acupuncturists too. So now I understand. It was only when I began to do serious emotional releasing, also known as writing, crying, screaming, singing, talking to someone, forgiveness, ceremonies, starting a blog, that both my anxiety and physical ailments began to subside together. They were both a product of unresolved anger that was blocking the energy flow through my organs, especially my liver and heart. The frustration, self-hatred, and heat built up for so long that it was expressing itself through my skin via painful, inflamed cysts and nodules. They mirrored the way I felt inside. My body was dealing with stagnation the best it could, trying to excrete the buildup in any way possible. Every time I used physical tools such as herbs or juicing to assist my body in releasing toxicity, more and more emotions would come with it. Unresolved emotional pain is one of the most important things we need to take care of when healing ourselves, even more important than diet and herbs. Expressing that pain and transmuting it, using it to do something positive, is how we remove the energy blockages that harm our organs and contribute to everything from anxiety to eczema to cancer. So, that's really interesting. I like it. Really cool. Next article I want to share with you guys towards your optimal wellness. This course taking 10 years to load. Go 5G internet. So, yeah, I've been enjoying living in an RV. It's been quite the experience. Um, I moved out of my $3.5 million house into a 33-foot trailer RV thing. Big ass rig. It's big. I drove it. I finally drove it. That was interesting because I spent too much money on new tires because I had to. But there's a lot of unseen expenses, but it's worth it. Just the freedom of not having to pay rent every month and collecting energy from the sun. Woo! Okay, so I love it, and I'm thankful for my friends and their awesome internet. Okay, so 3 important lessons from traditional Chinese medicine, which was referenced in that last article. There's so much to learn from traditional systems of medicine. Although there were no labs or fancy testing methods thousands of years ago,
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Hey, this is JJ Inc., and when I'm on planet Earth, I listen to UC